Welcome to West Virginia State University, NASA SEMAA. Today we're going to be making kites. We're going to be making these kites from templates. So we have 5 templates that we're going to work with today. A diamond kite, a sled kite, a delta kite, a butterfly kite, and a flying squirrel kite. It's up to you to determine which of these kites that your students work with or a combination. But there are certain materials that we're going to need regardless. We're going to need the template. We're going to need a pair of scissors, straw, skewers, tape. You can use cellophane tape, masking tape, whatever's easiest. We're going to need paper clips. The small ones are fine for these small models. A craft stick for the reel, which will eventually look like this. We also need a string, yarn. We're going to need a hole punch, and then, crayons, markers, anything, paints even, whatever's most convenient. So the first thing, let's look at our templates. First we have the diamond kite template, the sled kite template, we have a delta kite template, the butterfly template, and then the flying squirrel template. So what I have done, instead of having you watch me cut and collar, I've already done that. So the first of the kites is the diamond kite. So what I normally do with my students is I will ask them to go ahead and cut this out along the dark lines, the thick dark lines, and I will have them flip it over after they cut it out and then collar. The reason being is these lines right here represent where you want to put the spar and the spine, and I want my students to be able to follow those lines. So you can see here, we can clearly see them, and the art is on the other side. So what I have them initially do is tape at the top. It's children normally want to just do the middle, but with this type of kite and where we're going to put the string, tie the string on later, we don't need this tape down. So what I have my students do is take at least an inch, inch and a half of tape, and long ways wrap the tape around to where it adheres to the other side. And we can cut off the excess later. Then I have them take another piece of tape and tape that down. This will actually help keep this secure. And as I said, we just cut off the excess tape that's not needed. Now we do the same thing to the other side. Notice that there is part of the bamboo skewer hanging over. So what I tell my students to do is just grab a handy dandy marker, line the one end up on the left if they're right-handed, it's the opposite if they're left-handed, and just make a mark. This is where they're going to cut it. They just need to do this a few times and then snap it, and it comes straight off. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. This is the spar that we did to the spine. We're going to take about an inch, inch and a half of tape, and we're going to line it up and just flip it over. We can fold the excess tape down, or we can cut it off. It really doesn't matter. And then we're going to tape it again, and then it's going to be secure. We're going to do that on the opposite side. So now that we have this taped down, we need to put a hole in it where the spar and spine meet, because we want to thread through the string in order for the kite to fly. So the string will be tied here but come out on this side. So what I suggest is putting it down, feeling where the spar and spine meet, and just poke a little hole. We do have a hole punch, and you can use a hole punch, but I find because where this is at, it's not all that convenient. Now, the second thing you want to do is know how much string. The general rule is twice the length of your kite. So here's one length. Here's the second length. Now, I also tell my students to add enough length from the spine to the first spar, because you're going to have to tie and cut, and you don't want to lose all that length. So we now are going to put this under the spine and the spar, and we're just going to do a good old-fashioned granny knot. That's where we take the string up and over, and then we do it again. That's just a good old-fashioned granny knot. And we can tape this down for extra security. But don't do that until you've got the string poked through. So I put the hole right here. So I'm just going to push that through like so. Now I'm going to tape it down, because granny knots do have a way of coming loose. So I'm going to do a crisscross in the tape. Now that this is ready to this point, I'm going to do one more thing. For smaller kids, granny knots are much easier, but I find that if you take a length of string about 2.5 inches and you double it, put it through the paper clip, and then bring the paper clip back up through it, you get what's called a slip knot. Now, the reason I've done this is either when we're testing the kite, like indoors with a hairdryer or a fan, they can just hold onto the paper clip. But if they take it outside and attempt it, then they can create a flying line reel. And so basically all you do is you take a craft stick like this, and you cut off, in this case, at least if you're going to take it outside, 25 feet of line. And you tape, like right here, you tape the string down, you wrap it around, and you want to put the paper clip on the other end. So what can happen is you can put these two paper clips together, and now you have a secured flying line to use outside. And so the good thing about this is also that if you make 5 of these, or you have 5 groups of students make 5 of these, then you're not going to use as much resources as you would if each child used 25 foot of line. But that is up to you. Now, the second thing we're going to look at is the sled kite. So I'm going to put this to the side. This kite is now complete, and you can see it's quite simple to make. In another video, we'll use the fan and the hair dryer and do some testing. So if the day is not conducive to flying, you can do this activity indoors. Now here is the sled kite, and again, like with the diamond kite, I have my students cut it out, flip it over, and then create their art on the opposite side, which I've done here. Now, you'll notice that there are lines and there's little indications, you know, tape straw here, put tape here, and then there's a dark circle to indicate you need to hole punch it. So what I normally have my students do is I'll have them go ahead and put their straws down and tape it, and we'll tape it here, and then I'll tell them go down a couple inches and put another piece of tape, but line it up to the dotted line. Now once we do that, you'll notice that there's some excess straw. Don't throw those straws away that they cut, the excess that they cut, because there's actually use for them when you have to combine two pieces of bamboo for larger models. So right here we have two straws taped, but we need to tape this. And we want the tape to flip over to both sides. And honestly, I feel like if you're going to take it outside, it's really best to double tape this, because the string and the wind ends up tearing the kite. So we're just going to hole punch. And again, the general rule is the length of the kite and flying line twice to make the bridle, because that's what we're doing, is the bridle. So that's 2 times for this side, but we want to do another. We don't have a spar, but we'll do half so we can make sure we have that full 2 lengths. So we're going to do that again. 1, 2, and about half. Okay. Now we're going to string this through. Now, reminding you that this is the top, this is the bottom. This is what we're going to see when we're flying. So we're just going to go ahead and flip this over. And we're going to just do a good old-fashioned granny knot. And we can tape it down after we're finished. Now, you can also tie a granny knot or a slip knot on a paper clip and use the paper clip as the guide. I do have some students in the larger models that have done that, and it works really well. You just need to make sure that the kite is not so weighted with paper clips that it doesn't fly well. So we're going to do this again, just a granny knot on this side. And we're going to tape it down. And smaller students may need some help on their granny knots. So now we have 2 pieces of string. So what I do is the kids can do a granny knot over a paper clip, let me get another one, if they so choose, or they can do another slip knot, but we're going to go ahead and just do a granny knot. But we could do a slip knot, it really wouldn't matter. Now the other thing, when we're doing granny knots like this, I like to just reinforce it with some tape, because again, granny knots have a tendency to come undone if it's a lot of motion. So here we have this. Now we need to fold this inward. So now we have the sled kite, and it'll fly like this. Now for our third one, it's a delta kite. Delta kite has an optional feature. With the delta kite, like with the other kites, I have the students cut it out along the thick black lines, turn it over, and create their art. I also have them cut out this keel, and the keel is optional. You don't have to use it. But if they do cut out the keel, I actually ask them to collar both sides, and you'll see why in a few moments. So here we've created our art on one side, and now to flip it over. I'm using straws again for this, but it can be bamboo skewers. Now we've taped the straw here and here, like we did with the sled kite. We don't want to tape the middle because, again, you can see there's a crossbar, and this is where we're going to have to do some work. If you'll notice, I'll take my straw on this side. The straw's too short, so what do you do about that? Well, what I instruct my students to do is come up on the straw, stick your scissors in, and cut about 1 centimeter. And then take your straw and pinch it with your hands to enclose it just a little bit more, and stick it inside another straw, and and push. I was pushing a little too hard. Let's try that again. Okay, push. Now take a piece of tape and tape the joint up. And if you feel better, you can put 2 pieces of tape, because sometimes children with that are young, their motor skills are not quite developed, and they may need a bit more tape. So we're going to put this down. We're going to measure it, make our mark, and we're going to take our scissors and simply cut it. And again, keep the excess straws for later use. So what we're going to do is, on this side of the tape, we are going to tape down the top, wrap it around, and we're going to tape down the bottom and wrap it around. And that's what we started to do on this side. So take the tape, wrap it around at the top, take the tape, wrap it around at the bottom. Now, you notice I haven't put tape here because I was waiting to get all 3 pieces together, bring it over the top, and wrap it around. And then do that again right here. And we can cut off the excess if there's quite a bit of it. Alright, now that we've put in the 3 spines, we now have need for a spar. Now this spar is too short. So we'll take another straw, we'll mark it, and cut it off. Oops. And we're going to tape the ends. So I'm just going to put my tape around it and fold it over. And again, we're just taping the ends right now. We don't want to tape the crossbar because we're going to have to put a string through it, tie string. And sometimes our crossbars is not as straight as we'd like it, so we have to work with it. So I've got that down. Now I have to tape it in the opposite direction to make sure that it holds securely. So if you'll notice, we wrap vertically and horizontally, or vice versa, as long as we get it wrapped in both directions. So now we have a really good frame built. And just like in the diamond kite and the other kites, we need to feel where our crossbar is and just poke a hole. And we want, again, twice the string plus a little bit more to tie the knot. So here's 1 length, 2 length, and then we want the length down to the first spar, and that will give us enough length of string to also tie. So we're going to feed the string up and over the crossbar. That's where the spine and spar meet. And we're going to just do the good old-fashioned granny knot and tape it down in a few minutes. Okay, and we're going to feed that string back through the hole we made. Oops, I pulled it out. Let's try this again. And like the others, we're going to take a paper clip, and you can do a granny knot or a slip knot. That would be up to you. Okay. And now we're going to tape down that string on the other side. And we're going to crisscross it to make sure that it's nice and secure. So now we have our Delta kite, for which we have put our frame and we've taped it all over. So now let's move to the butterfly template. With this template, again, I have my, in this particular one, they can collar it as is, but I, again, just have them normally cut this template out first and collar the entire thing. Then what they need to do is fold it where indicated, that perforated line, and then fold the wings over. Okay. They also need to tape this. Now, if you have some glue or what have you, they can glue it down, but tape works just as well. So we tape this in, and we tape this in, and we're folding it over so it's solid. Then what we're going to do is take our one-hole punch, and punch out a hole. It would have probably been a good idea to have taped that first, so let's go back and tape it and repunch it. I'm going to do two because, again, this is just regular paper. It's not very thick. If you're using cardstock, that's probably not as much of an issue. And again, the general rule is twice the length of the kite, and then I add down to either the spar or the thread hole, and so to give me enough excess string to tie with. So I'm going to put the string through here, and again, you can do a slip knot or a granny knot. There's several different type of nautical or marine knots that you can use, but normally the granny and the slip knot are the two most popular for the simple kites. Okay, and then we can go ahead and tape that down. Now, again, I always add a paper clip at the end because in my class we only have like 4 or 5 of the flying kite lines because we go out in groups, and so we do the paper clips so the reel and the flying lines can be exchanged from group to group. So there we have it, the butterfly kite, and as you can see, there is no straws or what have you attached. However, if you go to take your kite outside and it's just a little too windy, you can come back and redress it and put you a straw right here at the widest part to keep your kite sturdy. But again, that's up to you. The directions do not call for it, but as you can see, there's nothing wrong with keeping that a little bit sturdy. Now, the last kite we have is our flying squirrel kite. Now, according to the directions of this one, you would actually fold the kite this way and put the frame in, but normally we put the frame on top. So what I would do is I would just have my students just fold this in half and bring the sides of the squirrel down. Actually, I need to make that one a little bit more even. Okay. Now, at this point, this is where my holes are. So what I would do is go ahead and take some tape at the end of this. And secure each end down with the tape. And then I would take, I'll go ahead and tape this up first. I would take my tape where I'm going to put my hole for, because I'm going to feed it back through like I did my Delta Kite and my Diamond Kite. I would take my hole punch it, and again, 2 times the length plus a piece more, usually down to the first spar or where we're going to tie the thread. And I would tie this thread. In a granny knot. Now I would just take my scissors and I would punch a little hole to feed this back through. And I would go back and tape the granny knot down. And as always, I would get my paper clip because, as I said, I take mine out in groups of 5. Sometimes that's not possible, particularly if you don't have others helping you in these activities. But if you team teach, that sometimes helps. And again, I did a granny knot, so I'm going to take the length of the tape and I'm going to secure my granny knot by just taking a piece of tape around it and above it. Sometimes students have difficulty with it, but you know, when they're younger, but I think things like this help develop their motor skills. So as you can see, this is now ready to be attached to a reel and flying line and flown outside, or you can hold on to the paper clip and test it inside with a hairdryer or a box fan that's been modified a little bit. And in another video, we'll show you how to test these items indoors. Thank you.